You ever notice how the universe has a way of making you the villain in someone else's story without you even signing up for the part? No, seriously. One morning you're just a regular guy running on too little sleep, hoping the coffee machine works, and by nightfall, you're the criminal who destroyed neighborhood tranquility with an act of pure evil snow shoveling. Yeah, welcome to my life. My name's Paul Foster, and if you ever get a chance to move to Ridgemont Hills townhouses in Boulder, Colorado, maybe just keep scrolling. From the street, it's the kind of place that tries to look like a Norman Rockwell painting, every mailbox in formation, lawns trimmed to a military standard, and God forbid you pick the wrong shade of blue for your front door. I bought my unit because, well, Boulder is expensive and this place was close to the hospital where I work ER night shifts. I figured the neighborhood would be low maintenance. That was my first mistake. See, the real HOA president, queen of the perfectly manicured lawns, the enforcer of mailbox uniformity, was Patricia Hindress. She's the sort of woman who could probably spot a misaligned parking job from half a mile away. And believe me, she'd let you know. I mean, her hair alone could file a complaint, just this precise helmet that says, "I'd like to speak to your manager," even before she opens her mouth. Doug, my neighbor, used to joke that living here meant we all technically reported to Patricia. I'd had a few run-ins with her before once, over my car hanging 2 inches into the next spot, which as far as I can tell is apparently how civilizations collapse. And then there was the bird feeder incident. Apparently birds aren't covered under approved exterior decor. But what finally did me and what made me public enemy number one was the snow. It was January. Boulder was deep in one of those brutal cold snaps, and overnight we got hit with 18 inches of heavy, wet snow. I'd just finished a soul-crushing night shift at the ER, 12 hours of patching up broken wrists, warming up frostbitten college kids, and listening to someone explain that no, officer, I definitely was not sledding on that roof. I pull into Ridgemont Hills at 7 a.m., and the lot is basically the North Pole. My car's buried, the path to my door is gone. And here's the kicker. The emergency exit doors out back are just a wall of white. Now look, I get it. The HOA had a snow removal contract, but those guys never showed up before late afternoon, and even then, all they did was the main walkways. The emergency exits, always an afterthought. So I did what anyone would do with at least one working brain cell. I grabbed my shovel and spent 2 hours digging out my spot, my walkway. And because I'm a sucker, those emergency exits. I finished, my arms shaking, half frozen but proud, thinking, hey, at least I'll get a nap. Around 6 p.m. Right as I was coming out of my sleep coma, I hear this knock at my door. Not just any knock either. A knock that says, "Open up, citizen. The fun's over." I crack the door and there she is, Patricia, looking like an angry marshmallow in her puffy white jacket, wielding her clipboard like it's the law. She looks me dead in the eyes. Paul Foster. She knows who I am. I need to speak with you about this morning's activities. I'm still half asleep, so I just blink at her. You were observed shoveling snow at 7 in the morning. We've received multiple complaints about the noise. I honestly thought she was joking. I said, Patricia, there was 18 inches of snow. I had to clear my spot in the walkway. It's not like I was firing up a leaf blower at midnight. She hits me with the bylaw. Residents are not permitted to engage in outdoor maintenance activities between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. Section 12, subsection 4. She had it highlighted and everything, like she was hoping to hand out tickets all week. I just stared at her. You're serious? This is your official warning, she says. Next time it's a $250 fine. And then she just turns and walks away, leaving me in the doorway, shovel in hand, wondering if I'd stumbled into some kind of dystopian sitcom. So the next few weeks I play by the rules. Every time it snows, I drag myself out before 8 p.m., even if I'm half dead from work, just to avoid Patricia's wrath. But then February rolls in with a vengeance. Weather Service says historic storm coming, which in Boulder means start prepping for the next ice age. The hospital was nuts that night. I'm treating people who tried to shovel without gloves, folks who skidded their cars into fences, you name it. When I finally crawl home, it's Thursday morning and Ridgemont Hills looks like it's been hit by an avalanche. My parking lot, impassable. Emergency exits, gone buried under what must have been 4 feet of snowdrift. At this point, it wasn't even about convenience. I'm a nurse, so fire safety is drilled into me. If there's an emergency and those doors are blocked, people die. That's not an exaggeration. I grab my shovel. It's 7:45 a.m. I have 15 minutes to legally move snow, so I go full beast mode. My shoulders are screaming, but I'm making headway. The first emergency door is half clear at 7:58 a.m., 2 minutes left. I'm so close. And then boom, Patricia. Like she materialized from the snow itself. Puffy jacket storm cloud on her face. "What do you think you're doing?" she snaps. I'm breathing hard snow all over me, shovel in hand. Clearing the emergency exits. They're completely blocked. It's not 8 a.m. yet. You're in direct violation of HOA bylaws. I swear something inside me just snapped. I'd been up all night saving lives, driving home through whiteout conditions, and now this. I planted the shovel in the snow, stared her right in the eye, and said, "Fine. You want me to stop? I'll stop." She nodded like she'd won and marched off, and I was too mad to sleep. All I could think about was those fire marshal reports, stories about people dying because the exits were blocked. But I did exactly what the bylaw said. I stopped shoveling. You know what happened next? Around noon, sirens. Not just one, but a whole convoy, fire trucks, ambulances, the works. There was a kitchen fire in Building C. Thankfully, everyone made it out okay, but it could have been way worse. I watched the firefighters, watched the fire marshal checking the back doors, the ones still buried under 4 feet of snow. That evening, Patricia sent out an email to all residents. Nothing about the blocked exits, just a note reminding us to be careful with our stoves. Then a separate email to me, $250 fine for violating the quiet hours. I just stared at the screen, feeling like I was living in a satire nobody else was in on. Next morning, there's a big bright notice on our building from the Boulder Fire Department. Violation of fire code exits blocked, $500 a day, fine until it's fixed. 48 hours to comply. And just like that, the tables turned. That afternoon, Martin, the HOA vice president, actual decent human retired teacher, shows up at my door. He looks tired. "Paul, the fire marshal's serious. We need all hands on deck to clear the exits or everyone's getting hit with higher fees. Would you help out?" I looked him in the eye. "Martin, I tried. I got fined for it. I'll help if Patricia rescinds the fine, issues an apology, and the policy gets changed for emergencies. In writing." He sighs. "I'll take it to the board, but Patricia doesn't back down easy." Well, I said maybe she'll enjoy the workout. Later, Patricia emails me this time, accusing me of violating the community spirit clause for not helping and threatening further penalties. You see the irony? I get fined for helping, threatened for not helping. My blood pressure probably spiked higher than on my worst ER night. I sat down and actually read the bylaws, all 70 pages. Turns out I could request a board hearing to appeal the fine, and I had a right to present my case. I fired off an email requesting that hearing, laying out every bit of evidence: the storm, my shift, the blocked exits, the fire code. I was ready for war. That weekend, the snow removal company still hadn't shown. Volunteers tried, but the snow was just too much. Monday morning, the fire marshal came for his follow-up. Exits still blocked. Fines started piling up: $500, then $1,000, $1,500. My phone blew up. Neighbors angry, some with me, most with Patricia. It became clear this was bigger than one nurse with a shovel. Tuesday, I prepped for my hearing like it was a murder trial. Printed fire marshal notices, storm reports, my work schedule, even photos of the snow. I called Rebecca, a lawyer friend, and when I laid out the story, she said, "Paul, you've got them dead to rights. Fire code trumps HOA bylaws. You acted reasonably in an emergency, and you were punished for it. I'll come to the hearing." Thursday evening, I hear a knock. Patricia. She looks worn down, defeated in a way I never thought possible. "The board wants to resolve this," she says before Friday's hearing. "We'll rescind your fine, revise the policy for emergencies if you help clear the exits. We need to stop the fines." I say, "Add a public statement that I was fined for trying to keep people safe and that you've changed the policy because of it." She hesitates but finally nods. That night, I get the email: fine rescinded, policy updated, statement to residents. The next morning, I'm out with my shovel. Doug, a bunch of others join. We clear every exit. Fire marshal signs off. Fines stop. A few days later, Patricia leaves a handwritten note in my mailbox: "I was wrong. You were right. Thank you for pushing back." Weeks later, the HOA votes in policy changes: more humane noise rules, safety reviews, actual training for board members. Patricia runs meetings less like a dictator, more like a human being. And just like that, the culture starts to shift. I'm asked to serve on the new safety committee, go figure, and we actually get stuff done. Burned out lights, replaced railings, fixed, snow removal company fired and replaced. One night back at work, a doctor tells me my story got passed around at a regional HOA conference, apparently. "Don't be like Patricia" became a running joke. I felt a little bad, but then again, sometimes karma wears a puffy white jacket and carries a clipboard. Here's the thing I learned, the moral, if you want to call it that. Rules exist for a reason. Sure, but sometimes people get so caught up in being right and following the letter of the law that they lose sight of the whole point: to keep people safe, to help each other out. Sometimes you've got to be the pain in the ass who says, "No, this is wrong," even if everyone hates you for a little while. Because if you don't, the unreasonable just keeps rolling. The best part, the following winter we got hit with another snowstorm. This time I looked out my window and saw Patricia herself shoveling out the emergency exit, waving at me with a tired grin. Not because the rules said so, but because it was the right thing to do. Funny how these little battles over snow over $250 end up changing everything. Now the bylaws protect safety over noise, residents help each other out, and I can sleep after a shift, knowing that if I see a hazard, I can fix it without risking a fine or an angry marshmallow at my door. But here's what I wonder, and maybe you will too. Where's the line between enforcing order and losing sight of common sense? Should rules ever come before people? And how far would you go to stand up for what's right, if it meant everyone else turned against you, at least for a while? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Ever gone toe-to-toe with an HOA, a boss, or just some ridiculous rule? Did you stick it out or let it slide? Drop your stories below, because trust me, we all have a little Patricia and maybe a little Paul inside us. And sometimes it takes a fight over snow to figure out which one you're going to be.
Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video.